Now to an NBC News exclusive about a rare partnership between the United States and Cuba working together to fight against drug trafficking. In May, more than 750 pounds of marijuana was seized during a joint maritime anti-drug operation between the U.S. Coast Guard and Cuban Border Patrol. The drug traffickers were captured and their boat was sunk. NBC News also got exclusive access to witness American and Cuban officials overseeing the burning of the drugs in a huge melting pot inside a steel plant, showcasing that despite a lot of differences between the two countries, Cuba and the U.S. are collaborating when it comes to stopping the flow of drugs.
Essentially, when it is a shared national security interest, and if it's an area that is under the U.S. national security interests, then of course we want cooperation. We want communication and cooperation in areas that also fit within the U.S. national security interest.
We have more than one cooperative agreement with Cuba. We've been working on what we call maritime environmental response. We've been working on maritime law enforcement, and we've been working on search and rescue. I do believe that these bilateral agreements should be expanded into something that is more regional.
And joining me now is Cuba's Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, Carlos Fernandez de Cosio Dominguez. It's very good to see you. Thank you very much for joining us today. I want to talk to you about the fact that the Cubans were able to seize the drugs with direct help from the U.S., and I know we have a little bit of a satellite delay, so I'll try to accommodate for that. Is this a breakthrough that could be mirrored in other ways, in other parts of the relationship?
We believe so. This is a cooperation in a specific area which is of interest for both countries. And there are many others that could be of interest of two countries that are so close. So I'm sure that if there will be political willingness from the U.S., we could cooperate on many other issues.
And we just heard the U.S. Embassy Coast Guard liaison say that there could be other collaborations. What other ways do you think the two countries could collaborate, perhaps as a first step towards better communication?
We could cooperate in the area of healthcare. We could cooperate in search and rescue. We could cooperate in migration, as we're already doing. We could cooperate with the region. We could cooperate in providing health services to many countries in the region, putting together the resources of the United States and the human resources and technical and professional experience that Cuba has. Those are areas in which both countries could cooperate if there's a willingness to do it.
The state of U.S.-Cuban relations is not good with the Biden administration, and perhaps you had thought it might improve. What do they want you to do regarding prisoners, human rights, and other issues that remain unresolved, especially since the protests of some years ago?
I don't believe that there's truly a willingness to improve the relationship. And that's the reason why they put excuses on the road and on the way so that we could not improve the relationship. And they speak of prisoners. They only speak of prisoners in Cuba. They don't speak of prisoners in the United States, which would be an issue that we could have a reciprocal conversation if it were the willingness of the United States. We could speak of human rights between the two countries. We have serious concerns about the respect of human rights in the United States. It's an issue which we are ready to discuss. But it has to be a comprehensive conversation. A conversation that puts everything on the table to solve the problems between the two countries. It is very difficult to conduct that while the United States has a policy of strangling the Cuban economy.
Have you had any conversations about the sanctions and lifting the sanctions?
There are no conversations on that. There are unilateral sanctions. There is no sanction from Cuba to the United States. They're all unilateral sanctions, unilaterally imposed by the United States, so it depends on the willingness of the U.S. government to lift them.
And have you tried to take any other steps to meet any of their concerns?
I couldn't get your question. Could you repeat, please?
Are there any other steps that you could take regarding elections or some of the concerns that they have raised Or do you think that they have any willingness to lift these sanctions?
We are ready to take steps on the basis of a mutually beneficial relationship. What is difficult is to believe that Cuba needs to take steps when the United States, contrary to what it has proclaimed, contrary to what was the official promise of this government when it came into power and it got elected, has not taken steps to improve the relationship with Cuba and is posing one excuse after the other so that it remains in place, basically, the position that was put and the policy that was put in place by the previous administration.
Do you think that that is because of election politics?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question. Could you, there's a sound problem.
No, I'm sorry. Do you think that is because of politics here in the United States? Do you think that President Biden is not willing to take any steps at this time?
It seems so. I think the question has to be made to the White House, but it makes us believe so, that for some political reasons, the strategic approach of the United States in terms of Latin America, in terms of Cuba, is not the one governing the policy of the government.
Well, thank you very much. We will follow up in both capitals. Thank you very much, Mr. Ocasio.